Hello friends, it's an honor once again to welcome you back to Rick's Garage. What you see before you is my Cub Cadet snowblower. It's top of the line in any way you could possibly measure. It's got hydrostatic drive, not a disc drive, it's an actual hydrostatic drive. 420cc motor, 3-stage, it's a 30-inch Pro H series. This machine paid pretty close to $3,000 for it. This is my third season. Well, the reason I'm showing you this is I have a problem with it. Even though it's only been used for 2 seasons, it's not running correctly. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So what I've gone ahead and done here, I've used my audio special effects to muffle the sound so you can hear what I'm saying. Not that I'm that interesting to listen to. But what's the problem here is the engine will only run on full choke. You can see when I try to take it off of full choke, it wants to die right out. Well, the reason I believe I'm having problems is mostly of my own making. Last year we had a very mild winter. We only had plowable snow once the entire season, and that was only about 5 inches. So I believe the gas in this machine as a result of that is 2 years old. Now, I had been using gas stabilizer. That's the first thing you'll mention. Gas stabilizer is not good for 2 years. I allowed the machine to run only once last year. I let the machine sit in the shed for the entire off season, and now I start it up and expect it to run properly. So I'm sure the carburetor is all gelled up with that ethanol. So anyway, what we're going to attempt to do today is remove the carburetor and clean it up. But the first thing we're going to do is get this old gas out of this machine. So what we're going to do, I've got a siphoning pump here, and I've got a clean bucket beneath, and I'm going to attempt to, I don't know if you can see this or not, but I'm going to attempt to pump out this tank and get as much out of it as possible. There we go. Now we're working. Now this should continue to siphon on its own, and it is. So we're going to attempt to siphon as much of this fuel out of this tank as we possibly can. The fuel does look fairly clean coming out, but it's still got that ethanol in it. And there's nothing we can do about that here in Massachusetts. I know in some of the neighboring states they sell ethanol-free gas, but they don't do that anywhere I could see here in Massachusetts unless I want to buy it in quart bottles for about $8 a bottle. I may do that. I may well do that come the end of the season when I'm almost done with the snowblower. To the last tank of gas, I'll put in, try to drain the gas out like this and put in some ethanol-free gas. I guess that's the only way to avoid this from happening. All right, so we're going to put, because we're having a problem, we're going to put a full can of seafoam in here. They say you can use up to a 50-50 mix for really bad situations. So we're going to put the entire can of seafoam in there. Okay, it happens to be 20 ounces. And then we're going to fill the tank the rest of the way with Shell V-Power. Now this is Shell V-Power. It's 93 octane. It's supposed to help clean your motors. It does indeed have ethanol in it. There's no gas I can buy here in Massachusetts that doesn't seem to have ethanol. But it's the most expensive, best gas I think I can buy. Okay friends, it's been a couple of days since we siphoned out the tank, put in fresh gas with the seafoam cleaner. And we did make some minor improvements. It will run with the choke wide open now, but it runs very rough. It lopes, as they call it. It runs best at half choke. That's the best we've been able to get, the best results we've been able to get. So what I've decided to do, I don't want to go into a winter storm with the machine running at half choke. I don't know how it would perform under a load. So we're going to try to access the carburetor and try to clean the main jet. I believe that's what's clogged. But in siphoning out the gas, putting in fresh gas with the cleaner, and running it for a couple of days off and on, we've got all that bad stuff out of the system now. So when we do indeed get the carburetor clean, it shouldn't get reclogged. Now the carburetor, I believe, is underneath this cover here. And I watched some videos about people working on the carburetor on these machines, and they had to take the whole front of this out, the chute and the exhaust cover and all this stuff to access the carburetor. And I absolutely don't understand why we can't just take this cover off to access the carburetor. So I'm going to start out in doing that and see what happens here. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to carefully try to remove the choke knob. See if we can try to get that out somehow. Should pull right off, I would hope. Let's get it from another angle. There we go. Well, I didn't want it to go flying, but we did indeed get it off. Okay. Now, when we took it off, it was at the half choke position, so when we put it back, that's what we'll put it back at. Next, we're going to attempt to pull off the key that operates the thing. And lastly, we're going to try to pull off the throttle. Now, I think we'll need a pair of pliers to get that off. And I don't want to damage it, so I'm going to put something around it. There we go. We got it off. Okay, just got to use a little elbow grease with it. So we'll put that with the other things. So now with those things disconnected, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nuts that we have to undo. All right, so I've got my Milwaukee battery operated ratchet. I love this thing. So we're gonna pull these off. Two more down here. And we've got one more that we can't quite get a ratchet on, so I'm gonna have to get a wrench. Okay, we've got 1 10mm bolt left right here. I can't get at it with the ratchet, so I'm gonna have to use a ratcheting wrench. See if I can grab it with my fingers. Yep, there it is. Okay, that one's out. Now hopefully this cover will come off. Let's see what happens here. seems to be. Now we got to be careful because we got a couple of connectors here. One is the tube for the fuel bowl, the bulb that pumps the fuel. So we got to carefully disconnect that. Now they say not to mess around with this because you could damage it, but let's see. Maybe we can get this out of our way without having to disconnect it. Well, it looks like that's not going to happen. All right, so I'm going to try to disconnect this little fuel line for the bulb. Use a pair of pliers. There we go, that's off. Now I had a plug handy in case that started to leak fuel, but it didn't. So let's see if we can get this out of the way now. It appears we've got a couple of wires in the way here. Just unconnect them, pull them out, and that way we can get this up and out of the way. All right. Okay, I knocked off my light, but we got the cover out of the way. And now the carburetor we have access to. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this little spring and unhook it. Let that dangle. Now this rod we won't be able to get off until we actually unbolt the carburetor. So next, I'm going to pull this little vacuum hose right here. These little hose pliers come in handy for things like that. This is the fuel line right here. I'm going to pinch off that fuel line. Some people use vice grips to do this. This is a special tool made for this purpose. And now I'm going to disconnect the fuel line. Take a little pair of needle nose pliers. See if I can get in there without blocking your view too badly. It's a little clamp we have to pull off, just like that. I'm going to take those same pliers and try to remove the fuel line. Sorry, I banged the camera. Bang the camera again. There, the fuel line's off. And as expected, a few drops of fuel came out, but not much because we've got it pinched off. So now, it looks like all that's remained is to unbolt the carburetor itself. Next, we got two 10mm nuts to remove. One's out, it fell. The other one's out and it fell. Okay, this little cover should come right off, and it does. The carburetor should pull right out, and it seems to quite easily. I keep banging the camera, I apologize. And now we got to twist it in such a way to get this little hook out, and there it is, it's out. Okay, so this carburetor is out. And it looks like the gaskets remained intact, so that's very good. Okay, so now I'm going to try to clean the jet that's inside here. What I'm going to do, this adjustment, I'm going to put a little dab right there on top, so I'll know to put it back exactly where it was. Now some people like to count turns, but I don't like doing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside with my verniers here, and I'm going to measure the exact distance that is. So by the combination of having this measurement here, plus having the dot, that's 105 thousandths. So I'm going to adjust that in until I get that figure. So now I'm going to go ahead and unscrew it. Here we go. And I'm just going to turn this completely out. See, when the carburetor turns, it's kind of hard to know exactly when it starts turning and when it doesn't, so I like to measure it instead. So now we've got that out of the way, we're going to pull out this. And I'm not sure how this comes out. There we go. Get that out. And now we want to clean this thing. This is the part we want to try to clean. So what I've done here is I've cut off a little piece of wire from a wire brush, and I've poked it through this little hole right here. I don't know if you can see it, but the wire's coming through. And now I've blown some air through it. And the air is going through, it wasn't before. So this might well have been our problem. So we're going to reinstall this jet using our mark and my measurements. And then I'm going to pull that bowl off and see if there's anything else in the carburetor that needs to be cleaned. Okay friends, I pulled this bowl off. You can see all this gel stuff that's in here. It's dried out a little bit. But that's what the problem is. All this gel has gotten into the carburetor. So we've got to try to clean that all out or buy a new carburetor. Okay, the first thing I found, this hole right here was plugged up. So we cleared that. This seems to be clear. I've blown air through it. The main inlet is clear. I've blown air through that. Now there's some sort of jet inside here that I'm going to try to unscrew and pull it out and see if that needs to be blown out. Alright, I managed to pull that jet. That's clear. I can see light through it. So now I've got a thin piece of welding rod. I'm going to try to run it up through the center here. And that seems to go through nicely. So it looks like all the passages that I have to deal with here are free. The only thing that was really clogged up were these two here that I saw. This is free. That is free. This air blows through that, air blows through this, air blows through that. This little jet came out, so I'm going to make sure all of those holes are free. I'm going to look to see if I can see light through them all. See light through that one, light through all of those. See light through all of those, light through all of those. So this thing here seems to be good. This little jet is good. Everything that I can see here is pretty clear now. So we're going to try putting it back together and see how it works. If not, I'm going to go ahead and order another carburetor. Well friends, I went ahead and reassembled everything in reverse order. As you can see, the machine is indeed running. And it is indeed running on fully open choke now. So it looks like our little operation here was a success. One thing I want to apologize, I had a camera malfunction and I didn't realize it until I was editing the video that I missed the part about removing the float. That was fairly simple. You just pull that little pin and the float drops right out, but I did not get that on camera. So what I intend to do in the days to come, I want to run all that seafoam out of the gas tank. So I'm going to run this machine a little bit each day until I use up all that gas, and then I'll refill it with the fresh V-Power, and I'll go back to using the stable So anyway, that's all I've really got here for Rick's Garage. I want to thank you once again for watching. Before I go, I'm going to post 2 videos to your left. Feel free to click on one or the other if you find them of interest. And to your right, I'm going to post a picture of my German Shepherd, my trusty avatar. Feel free to click on that if you wish to subscribe. So thanks again for watching, and we hope to see you all again very, very soon.